Let's make some Irish soda bread. It's early in the morning and I have nothing to eat. Irish soda bread, it's that way very healthy. It's made out of equal parts of whole wheat flour and all-purpose flour. They are very easy to make. It is one of the most authentic bread recipes from Ireland that they make on a day-to-day basis. So here I have 1 3/4 cup of wheat flour and 1 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour. We're gonna add a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of baking soda. This way the ingredients, they all get incorporated really very well, and then it removes the extra air and lumps out of your flour. And make sure you use fresh wheat flour, so that old wheat flours, they become rancid, they start secreting oil. And one of the best way to store your wheat flour is that you can freeze it really very well and will come out for a long duration of time. Also here I already have all the ingredients that are required. I have some buttermilk, which is really very important for this recipe, and then some oats that I'll be using it for garnishing later, and some flax egg that is used to replace one whole egg, and a couple of tablespoons of butter. So now I'm going to measure and take about a cup and 2/3 cups of buttermilk. To which I'm going to be adding this flax egg and give them a good whisk. Now for flax egg, to make a flax egg, for every egg you just need to add 1 tablespoon of flaxseed powder, and to which you need to add 3 tablespoons of water. Mix them really very well and let it rest for at least 5 minutes. What I typically do is, whenever I am going to use flax egg in my recipe, before I start doing any of my cooking activity or keeping the ingredients ready, I'll just prepare the flax egg, keep it aside, and then take out my ingredients and start doing the recipe, so that way they'll all be well rested and the gluten and glue will be formed. Preheat the oven to 200 degrees Celsius at this time. So now that our both dry and wet ingredients are done, with clean hands just make a well in your dry ingredients, and then add about 3/4 of your liquid. Let's just reserve the remaining. Always remember, we can always try if your dough comes out dry, but we cannot take out the liquid. I'm approximately reserving this much of my buttermilk batter. Now all you have to do is to just bring them all together. You don't have to knead it. This bread is a very rustic recipe. There will be cracks on them. You don't need to make a ball, smooth dough or anything like that. The amount of liquid needed will be more or less depending on how old and how the humidity in the area in which you work around. So you can always add your liquid later. See, I'm not giving any pressure. I'm just bringing the dough together. I'll show you the end after I'm done. Now when it has all come together, add 2 tablespoons of cold butter. So as you can see, it's as good as clean bowl. I've just brought them all together. I did not make a soft smooth dough. Also I added a little bit more of the buttermilk mixture, so now I am only having this much left. This was good enough for my dough to be formed. You can still see some butter here. As they evaporate, it will form the holes in between. So that's what butters are needed. Now as the dough is formed, you can just transform it to a clean floored surface. And then just once again bring them all together. Remember, you don't have to press them, you don't have to knead them, just bring them together once again. So now that this is done, you can see the cracks and everything, yet they are all together sticking as one big dough. With a dusted hand, press it to make it into a 4-inch big circle and 1.5 inch thickness. Now that we are done, I'm just gonna transfer it to a dusted baking pan. Since we are making a traditional Irish soda bread, I'd like to do it the authentic way and follow the recipe to the T all the way to the end. Now if you see this type of bread, they will have a cross mark scored on the bread. They are called the blessing of the bread. Let's just take a knife and start scoring by saying, in the name of the Father, and cut vertically, and Son, and go horizontally, and its Holy Ghost. Amen. Now we have blessed your Irish soda bread. Now comes the most interesting part of making an Irish soda bread. It's one of my kids' and my favorite part, where we just need to poke 4 holes on the corner of the bread. Thereby what happens is that we just release the fairies from the bread. Thereby it will stop them from cursing our bread from becoming a beautiful golden crusty top bread. And once this is done, with the leftover buttermilk mixture, you just have to glaze them on top. And when you have done, just sprinkle some rolled oats on top as a garnish. Now this is not important, but I always prefer adding some grains and cereal to my bread. Now let's bake them in the already preheated oven at 200 degrees Celsius for about 40 to 45 minutes. And then if it does not turn out golden crusty on top and hollow on the bottom, I may increase 5 more minutes depending on how it has turned out. See if our bread is ready. Looks good enough on the top. See if the bottom is hollow enough. Hear that sound? Oh, it's hot. There's nothing that could beat the smell of the freshly baked bread from oven. You can eat it as a grilled cheese toast or sandwiches or anything, but I'd always prefer my freshly baked bread with just a smear of butter and tea. So this is what happens if you don't have the patience to let your bread rest for at least a minimum of 30 minutes. Since I was super hungry, I thought I'll cut right through and eat. They crumbled into big chunks. Otherwise, they came out really very well. Texture perfect, taste perfect. I just smither it with some butter and I'm gonna enjoy it with my freshly brewed pot of Darjeeling oolong tea. So here's super easy, super fast, super hearty, super healthy Irish soda bread, all ready in 1 hour for breakfast. Enjoy.